Hi guys, so today I want to talk about the mainland China-Hong Kong football match, which apart from the 0-0 result, something else went down. So the FIFA rules are that during football matches there shouldn't be any insulting or political slogans. So what did the Hong Kong audience do? They held up signs saying boo and we don't want to be with China. Now Hong Kong have already been fined for doing this as well last time, so it's not the first time either. But why? So these are some of the sentiments that have been left over from the protest last year, which involve Hong Kong protesters protesting against the lack of direct democracy that Beijing is giving them. So when Britain gave Hong Kong back to Beijing, a one country, two systems promise was made. However, Hong Kong protesters say that this isn't quite the full deal, as currently the chief executive is elected by 1,200 so-called MPs who, as they say, are appointed by Beijing. In 2017, Beijing has promised that it will give Hong Kong democracy, but the Hong Kong protesters say that this won't be full democracy, as they'll have to choose between three Beijing-appointed officials. So what did these feelings all lead to? So in Hong Kong, this led to things like Occupy Central movement, which called for a veto on the Beijing offer of democracy that the Hong Kong people, some of the Hong Kong people, saw as an indirect democracy. There was also, of course, the umbrella movement, which became very famous around the world, and an unofficial referendum to which 1 out of 5 Hong Kong people attended, and 88% of those people agreed with a veto. So who in Hong Kong thinks differently? So there are a couple of groups in Hong Kong that are against these protests, namely Silent Majority for Hong Kong and Caring Hong Kong Power. So they say that what the protests are doing is actually damaging Hong Kong's reputation, its economic status, and its relationship with Beijing. However, there are calls that these people have been paid, although none of these have been substantiated. The other thing is that business leaders agree wholeheartedly with that and disagree with the protests. So what else is there? So Hong Kongers also have a kind of personal feeling that they don't really identify with the mainlanders like they used to. This is partly down to the just influx of mainlanders that have been coming in. Since 2009, they've been allowed to come into Hong Kong in vast numbers. And I think last year it totaled at 47 million, and that's in a city of 7 million. Now this is partly due to some of the differences in Hong Kong and mainlanders' manners and attitudes and things like that, but it's also because mainlanders come over and the Hong Kongers say strip the shelves bare of just household goods and things like that, because the mainlanders really want Hong Kong goods. There's a good example that happened last year of baby formula that was actually almost all of the baby formula from Hong Kong was taken away by the mainlanders, and that actually caused a real problem in Hong Kong. And I experienced that this summer when I went there and experienced the really strict controls on baby formula being brought into the mainland from Hong Kong, when I saw a man with a luggage, a suitcase full of baby formula, who was being shouted at by one of the guards because it's that important to them. There's also been a poll that says that Hong Kong people less and less identify with their mainland Chinese counterparts. So what is the government thinking of doing? Well, for the government, the mainland Chinese are bringing lots of much needed money into Hong Kong, but the government is in a dilemma as to whether what it should do about this problem, because on the one hand, it doesn't want to pander to the pro-democracy side, but it also doesn't want to encourage mainland Chinese, anti-mainland Chinese feeling. So what should be done? So during the handover, actually a number of Hong Kong residents actually travelled to places like the UK, Canada and America because they were afraid of what would happen in the future. From a British perspective, we look for democracy in our own systems, and so the majority of British people would probably look for, as much as possible, a direct democracy to come out of this. However, Hong Kong is of course split between its British identity and its mainland Chinese identity, and I think the time is coming when Hong Kong is going to have to decide what it wants and I think make an identity of its own. So can British people understand the problem? Well, actually it's not so different from the issue that British people have between Scotland and the rest of the British government. Scotland recently had a referendum in which people within Scotland looked to become independent. It actually failed to become independent, but it does show as well that there's the same issue of a difference in identity within the UK. So there's your answer to why Hong Kong football supporters were booing at the match.